Chinese New Year, Vietnamese New Year, Korean New Year, Japanese New Year. Aren't they all the same? Look, buddy, here is a pro tip. You should never say that they are all the same unless you want to get beat up. That's why we use Lunar New Year nowadays. The East Asian cultures are very proud of their unique celebration of their New Years. To them, it is a bigger celebration than Christmas is to the West. But of course, there are still some similarities between them, which makes the comparison even more interesting. So in this video, we are going to go on a deep dive and look into the similarities and differences between the New Year celebrations of these different East Asian cultures. 春节, Tết, and Solal falls on the first day of the first month of the Lunisolar calendar, which is based on the astronomical calculation on the movement of the moon and sun. But due to the differences in time zone, the appearance of the first new moon of the lunisolar calendar may take place on different days in the Gregorian calendar. This may happen once every few years. In China, this calendar is usually called the Nongli, agricultural calendar, or Yingli, the Yin calendar, as opposed to the Yang calendar, which is the term used for the sun-based Gregorian calendar. The oldest form of the Chinese lunar calendar was created during the Zhou dynasty over 2 millennia ago, and it was periodically readjusted for accuracy. The latest version of the lunisolar calendar, which is still used today, is called the Sixian calendar. It was created by the Chinese Christian scholar Xu Guangqi with the assistance of Jesuit missionaries such as Johann Adam Charles von Bell from Germany and other Jesuits from various countries. It was implemented at the start of the Qin Dynasty in the mid-17th century. This version and the previous ones were also used by Vietnam, Korea, and Japan. But Japan started calculating their own unisolar calendar in the year 1685. And eventually, all these countries adopted the Gregorian calendar. China, Korea, and Vietnam uses the Gregorian calendar for official purpose, but still used the lunisolar calendar to mark their traditional holidays. Japan, however, just phased out the lunisolar calendar completely, even though they still use some of the terms associated with the old calendar. These are some of the old calendar terms that will pop up over and over again, so let me explain them first. New Year's Eve is called除夕in Mandarin, or sometimes 除夜. The first day of the new year is called 元日, but 元旦, the first morning of the new year, is more important. The new year used to be commonly referred to as 元旦until everyone started to call it something different. In China, the celebration would last all the way to the 15th, the first full moon. But due to the busy modern lifestyle, everyone would return to work much earlier. The first month of the year is called 正月, and this is actually what the Japanese call their new year, Shogatsu. Since Japan have their new year first, let's start with Japan, and we will move along according to the time zone. Japan now celebrates their new year on the 1st of January of the Gregorian calendar, and officially calls it Shogatsu. But the term Gantan or Ganjitsu is still sometimes used, and it means the 1st of January. Japan still uses the 12 zodiac animals based on the Chinese calendar. But some of the animals are adapted to the local equivalent. The pig is changed to boar, Inoshishi, and sheep became goat, Yagi. Like the other cultures, they do their spring cleaning too. Over there, it is called Osoji. The reason why they do it in Japan is to welcome the Shinto kami into their homes. This is done at the New Year's Eve. A long time ago, it was done at the end of the Lunar New Year, which signifies the end of winter, so that it won't be too cold to open the doors and windows to sweep the dust away. But since we have vacuum cleaners now, it doesn't make that much of a difference anymore. Instead of visiting distant family members, the Japanese usually send each other postcards, which are expected to arrive on the 1st of January. The New Year is usually spent with immediate family members living in the same home. In the other East Asian cultures, they would pay respect and burn incense to their ancestors on the New Year's Eve. Japan doesn't seem to do that. The children would receive otoshidama, lucky money, inside colorful envelopes. The amount usually depends on the age of the children. The older they are, the more they get. The Japanese hang decorations called shimekazari on their front door. It is used to keep away bad spirits and invite the gods in. They would also display the kagami mochi, rice cakes, which represents the continuation of the family from one generation to the next, and place kadomatsu by the door, which became the temporary dwelling of the gods. On New Year's Eve, toshikoshi soba, the crossing of the year noodles, are eaten. On the New Year's Day, the special food to eat is osechi. These are special New Year dishes presented in classier bento boxes called jubako. Each dish has special meaning, like the prawns, which represents long life, because the whiskers and bent back represents an old man. It is usually a massive hassle to prepare, so busy families often just buy these at convenience stores or department stores if they have the money. The kagami mochi is broken, cooked, and eaten on the second Saturday or Sunday of January. There are also quite a few distinctly Japanese activities happening during this period. On the New Year's Eve, the bell of Buddhist temples would be rung 108 times to usher in the new year. This is called Joya no Kane. Since everyone would be home in the New Year's Eve, there would also be lots of TV specials. And a massive New Year special that had been running for over 70 years is the Kohaku Utagassen, where celebrities are divided into teams of red and white and compete in a song contest. Kids who could peel themselves away from their video games may also play traditional games such as Hanetsuki, a badminton-like game played with wooden paddle, where the losing side would get punished by having ink drawn on their face. There are other games too, like kite flying, top spinning, and so on. Between the first day of the New Year to the 6th, many Japanese would also visit the temple or shrine. This first visit is called Hatsumode. Over there, they would usually get lucky charms and their fortune slips, omikuji, that predicts whether they will have a lucky or unlucky year ahead of them. In China and Vietnam, lion dances are a big deal. Japan actually has its own lion dance, which they imported from China, but it is not a very important part of the new year. While Japan is often seen as a homogeneous society, there are actually quite a few interesting regional differences. In the Oga Peninsula of the Akita Prefecture, there is a tradition called Namahage, where men dress as oni, Japanese ogres, and scare naughty children on the days leading to the new year. The legend associated with this tradition is actually quite interesting. It is said that a long time ago, the Chinese Han Dynasty Emperor Han Wuti came to Oga and released demonic spirits to terrorize the people. But the local residents defeated them through deception. Historically, Han Wuti never went to Japan, so it makes this legend a very interesting crossover. Okinawa celebrates two New Years, the Japanese New Year and their own traditional New Year, which takes place on the same day of the Lunisolar calendar. Because Okinawa was formerly the kingdom of Ryukyu and had its unique culture before it became part of Japan by the end of the 19th century. Finally, the festivities would end on the 15th of January as the kadomatsu is burnt to release the gods, and the Japanese celebrate Ko Shokatsu, which means Little New Year, or sometimes called Women's New Year. They would eat rice gruel and sweet azuki beans. South Korea celebrates two New Years, the International New Year and the traditional Korean New Year, Seollal, which takes place on the first day of the lunisolar calendar. Obviously, Seollal is a much bigger deal. It is also sometimes known as Wondan or Wonil. The main difference here is that, unlike the other cultures and their extended celebrations, Seollal is a slightly more serious affair, and it lasts for only 3 days: the New Year's Eve, New Year, and the day after New Year. The zodiac animals of Korea is the same as the Chinese ones. Before the New Year, Korean families clean up their homes and wear new clothes to give themselves a fresh start. They would also wear the hanbok, the traditional Korean dress, if they have one. Koreans would go to the homes of the oldest living male relative to pay respect to their elders and ancestors. So it's going to be a really busy travel period. A very important part of the Korean New Year is the chare ritual, where specially prepared food is presented to the deceased ancestors by the oldest male relative. The placement of the food is quite important, and the dishes may differ according to the provinces. After the ritual, they would then eat the food to receive the blessings of their ancestors. Besides respecting the ancestors, the elder members of the family would also receive respect from the younger generations. Koreans would bow to their parents and grandparents and say their well wishes. This is called sebe. Remember, don't do it more than once, because bowing more than once is for the deceased. Children who perform sebe to their elders would get their New Year money in white envelopes instead of red, like in the Chinese or Vietnamese version. There are not much special decorations used for this holiday, but the colorful hanboks and chare food add plenty of colors to the festivities already. Another New Year food besides the chare is the tteokguk, sliced rice cake soup. Traditionally in Korea, people used to become 1 year older during the New Year, specifically after having the tteokguk. Games are another big part of Solal. Yunori is a traditional Korean game that's over 1,000 years old. I don't know how the rules work, but it is loud and looks like a lot of fun. If you want something newer though, there is Go Stop, which is played with the Japanese Hanafuda card, but uses a slightly different rules to the Koi Koi rules. There are also lion dances. They are usually regional customs from certain provinces of North Korea. One version, that is called Bukchong Sajanorum, takes place at the 14th and ends at the 15th. In North Korea, they also celebrate the Juche New Year on the 15th of April. Over there, they use the Juche calendar, which is a Gregorian calendar based on the birthday of their country's founder, Kim Il-sung. On the 15th, Koreans will celebrate Taeborum. They will light a bonfire and celebrate the first full moon with a variety of folk games where they crack open nuts with their teeth. Doing this will bring them good fortune for the rest of the year. Now, moving on to China. One would expect that China would be the most traditional one here, but it actually went through a bit of modernization too. The International New Year is now officially called Yuandan, and the Lunar New Year is officially called Chunjie, Spring Festival. But the first morning of the Chinese New Year is often called Yuandan too, so it can get confusing sometimes. Traditional festivals are still calculated based on the Lunisolar calendar, and the Spring Festival is the most important celebration of all for the Chinese. The preparation would start days before the New Year's Eve and would continue on until the 15th, the first full moon. The thing about the Chinese New Year is that there is a massive amount of regional variations because each provinces are so big they can rival the size of neighboring countries such as South Korea and Vietnam. The biggest apparent divide is between North and South China, mostly because of the climate. Different crops grow more easily in certain regions. The North is more suited to grow wheat, and the people there usually eat flour-based food, while the South is more suited to grow rice and similar crops. Historically, a lot of overseas Chinese came from South China, specifically the coastal region of Fujian and Guangdong, so their customs are usually closer to the Southerners. But they also have developed some local variations due to massive internal migration within China and overseas. Traditions started to blur too, so what I'm going to tell you are just some basic universal customs. The zodiac animals are all the same throughout the Chinese population. The order is rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, goat, monkey, rooster, dog, and pig. The order is pretty much the same everywhere, because it signifies the changing cycle of the year. After the year of the ox, it will be the year of the tiger, and so on. In the days leading up to the new year, Chinese families would clean their homes because it symbolizes the bad luck being swept away. There are plenty of other traditional activities during the new year, such as paying respect to the gods. But hardly any family follow every single one of those traditions. There are just too many of them. The most important part of the new year is perhaps the reunion dinner, which takes place at the end of the New Year's Eve. Families would travel back to their ancestral homes or the homes of their parents to celebrate together with a massive feast. In mainland China, this would create a massive wave of travel called Chunyun, and is considered to be the largest annual human migration in the world. Some religious and traditionally Confucian families would burn incense and offer prayers to their ancestors before reunion dinner. But this practice is not as important to the Chinese as it is to the Koreans and Vietnamese. For the children, the most important part of the Chinese New Year is the lucky money. This is called 利是, but often called 红包, which means red packet, because traditionally it is always contained in red packets. These are usually given to children and young adults. Adults usually have to start giving out red packets once they are married. As for decorations, everything red during the new year brings luck. So many Chinese will wear red clothes or at least new clothes. You will see lucky phrases written on red couplets hung outside the door, red lanterns, and plenty of this upside-down Fu character. This is actually a pun on the phrase Fu Dao. Fu means fortune, and the word Dao, which means upside down, sounds the same as the word arrive. So hanging this character upside down means let the fortune come. As for food, different regions have their own traditional New Year food. In the north, 饺子 dumplings are a big deal, and in the south, it is glutinous rice dumplings. Fish dishes are also popular in the south because it is mainly coastal region. But most areas would also have at least one fish dish. This fish is not eaten completely because of the auspicious pun 年年有余, which means there is overabundance every year. Overabundance and fish sounds the same, so to make sure that they have overabundance of good fortune, they make sure that there is some leftover fish. I think you are starting to see the pattern here. The Chinese love their puns. Rice cake is also a common feature in most regions. The difference between the Chinese and Korean rice cakes is that most Chinese rice cakes are brown and are usually eaten sweet. On New Year's Day, there will be plenty of fireworks and firecrackers, but many regions have banned firecrackers due to it being a fire hazard. Nowadays, they just go to firework events. Taking family portrait is a relatively new tradition, but it is becoming an important one. As for New Year games, there aren't any special ones. Adults would usually just gamble, mahjong or mahjong mainly. Good kids may play cards and board games without gambling. But not all kids are good, if you know what I mean. In mainland China, the CCTV Spring Special Gala will be watched by hundreds of millions. You will also see lion dance troupes traveling around performing outside shops and homes that invited them to bring luck. Just to let you know, you have to arrange a payment with them so that they will come. They are not doing it for free, you know. Northern and southern lions have different designs and performance style. By the way, lion is not a native animal to China. The closest species is the Asiatic lion from Western Asia and Middle East. So this art form may have been influenced by cultures from the west of China a long time ago. Since there are so many regional variations between the provinces and overseas Chinese, it is practically impossible to practice all of them unless you want to set a record. One tradition that was developed among the Malaysian Chinese, yu seng, mixing of ingredients, was even transmitted back to the mainland. So if you want to celebrate Chinese New Year with your Chinese friends, just ask what traditions they follow, because almost all families just fuse their traditions from different regions. The Chinese New Year is celebrated all the way until the 15th of the lunar calendar, the first full moon. On the 15th, they will celebrate Yuan Xiao Jie, also known as the Lantern Festival. On this day, rice balls with sweet stuffing is eaten to symbolize family togetherness. In Vietnam, they celebrate the New Year based on the Lunisolar calendar too. This festival is called Tết Nguyên Đán, or Tết for short. Yeah, this is the same Tet as Tet Offensive. It was a very big surprise for the Americans because Tết is a very important celebration for the Vietnamese, and it was almost unimaginable that they would miss it for anything else. The zodiac animals of Vietnam has one very distinct difference to the rest. That's because the rabbit was replaced with a cat. One explanation for this was because the ancient word for rabbit sounds like the word cat, so some people say that a mix-up happened a long time ago. Cleanups need to be done before the New Year's because sweeping during the New Year itself would sweep away the good fortune. Like Korea and China, Vietnam would return to their ancestral home or families, and this creates a massive movement of people. A very important part of the Vietnamese New Year is paying respect to their ancestors at the ancestral altar. Fruits, flowers, and offerings will be displayed, and this is where we will start to see the regional differences between North and South Vietnam. In North Vietnam, the flowers displayed would be peach blossoms, and in the South, it is yellow apricot blossoms. The 5 fruits tray would also be using fruits that are more common to the region. In Vietnam, they will also give out red packets filled with money to the children. It is called lì xì here. The color red is a big thing in Vietnam too. Many Vietnamese will wear red for good luck or wear new clothes. Homes will be decorated with many types of flowers specific to the region and various red items. Red lantern, red couplets, the Phu character, which means fortune. But the difference between Vietnam and China is that the Phu character in Vietnam is not displayed upside down. In Vietnam, there is a very distinct New Year food. It is called bánh trung, and in the south, bánh tét. The northern Vietnamese bánh trung is square-shaped, and the southern Vietnamese bánh tét is cylindrical shape. The main ingredients inside are similar, glutinous rice, but different regions may use different meat fillings, and bánh tét may use coconut as part of the cooking process. There are also plenty of other special food, of course, such as the sweet sticky rice called xôi cắp. Firecrackers and fireworks are everywhere on Tết. Gambling is also quite a popular activity here, and some may play the Vietnamese game Bầu Cút Tông Ca. The Vietnamese diaspora overseas, many of which are refugees from the Vietnamese War, may watch the good old Paris by Night Vietnamese New Year Gala. This is a program made annually by the diaspora community to celebrate Vietnamese culture. It is banned in Vietnam itself, but they can still get it quite easily. Another big thing for the Vietnamese is the lion dance. The Vietnamese lion dance costume resembles the southern Chinese version, but it is supposed to represent Ke Lan or Chi Linh instead of a lion. If you look at the horn of the Vietnamese version is slightly bigger. As previously mentioned, there are plenty of regional differences between the celebration of Tết by the northern and southern Vietnamese. Since there is also quite a large number of overseas Vietnamese population, the tradition may be practiced slightly differently, and some of them may even be fused. On the first full moon, Vietnamese Buddhists may offer prayers to Buddha. The Lantern Festival is usually celebrated by the local Chinese population. Okay, those are the differences and similarities between the New Year celebrations of these different cultures. I gained these information mainly from my international friends and some research, so I may miss some stuff. And if I do, please comment below and tell everyone what I missed. On the Cool History Bros channel, we cover the history and culture of Asia and the rest of the world. So if that sounds like your thing, then subscribe, because we've got plenty of great contents planned for the future. Until next time, stay cool, my bros.